Hi, this is Dan Kahn, and you're watching Fast News from Kahn Media. We have lots to get through this week, and our top story is the PPP, or Paycheck Protection Program, which the White House and Congress initially designed to help get money into the hands of small businesses so they can keep their payrolls up, not have to furlough and lay off employees, and get through the quarantine that's been the result of COVID-19. The initial $350 billion that was part of the first round of funding went away very, very quickly. It was gone through in about a week, and as many companies experienced, the rollout was a little clunky. There have been some stories in the news about how big publicly traded corporations and even some educational institutions like Harvard and Yale took advantage of it, even though it was really intended for small businesses. That was challenging to a lot of people, myself included. The banks also struggled a little bit with the rollout. Since that time, Congress passed an additional funding for that program. $484 billion went through Senate and the Congress, and as of today, Friday the 24th, the president has signed it. Of that $484 billion, $310 billion has been earmarked for small businesses. The difference this time versus last time is the past week and a half, 2 weeks since the last one ran out of money, a lot of small businesses have been working with their banks to try and sign up for this thing, and they've gotten their paperwork in order. So I think this is going to be something of a mad rush. They're saying Monday morning is when the SBA is going to start opening up the funding to banks. And so really it's just going to be whoever is first in line. There have been a lot of articles already written saying that essentially if you don't have your paperwork in as of today and approved through underwriting, you might be out of luck. So hopefully you've already applied. If you haven't, work with your financial institution. We've now heard from about half a dozen companies that did receive funding. Some as recently from round one as just a few days ago. So some of these banks actually were sitting on the funds and only dispersed them after the other banks ran out of money. So I would definitely talk to your bank if you haven't already as quickly as possible. I've also heard many people are trying to apply through multiple banks. You can do that as long as you don't actually submit your application to the SBA when you come out of underwriting from more than one bank, because they will flag that as fraud. We have some articles about that linked below in our newsletter. We also have some interesting articles and some deep dive reading about how to pursue loan forgiveness. There's an 8-week window that starts ticking and closing basically as soon as you get your funds, and you have to meet certain criteria for forgiveness when you get that funding. That includes maintaining a certain level of payroll from your application from 2019, and there's also some payroll numbers in there you want to kind of take a look at, as well as spending any excess money on things like rent, mortgage payments for your business building, power, any kind of overhead that goes to business operating expenses. If you spend all of it, you can get a lot of it forgiven. If you don't, it converts to a loan. So lots of information there for you to check out. Another top story, Monterey Car Week. This is a challenging one for us and for me personally. The majority of Monterey Car Week was canceled this week. It started on Wednesday the 22nd when Pebble Beach put out an evening announcement essentially saying they were postponing their event to 2021, their same August date. So essentially it was canceled. That was followed by the McCall Motorworks Revival, which is too bad. That's an event that we work on, and we enjoy working with Gordon and Molly McCall, so we were disappointed to hear that, but we understand their decision, and followed closely thereafter by the Quail Motorsports Gathering, which is another event that we promote at Kahn Media. We understand why these companies and these events made these decisions. It was influenced by a number of factors from what we hear, starting with the governor basically telling all events that they need to postpone indefinitely until further notice. The county also is involved, and quite honestly, a lot of these events were also worried about protecting their sponsors and not asking them to spend huge amounts of money on events that may end up getting canceled to protect the safety and well-being of the participants and the consumers who go. So that is a challenge. It's disappointing for all of us who love going to those events and even the ones who work them. But I think there is some opportunity in all of this darkness. And for brands that normally use these events to launch new product, launch new vehicles, interact with customers and consumers, there is an opportunity to pivot to digital and do things both with the events that got canceled, who are doing a lot of really cool digital programming, or in some cases going direct to consumer and having conversations and sharing content and doing virtual programming and digital programming. And there is some other ways we can talk about in future episodes how they can actually connect with those consumers without the use of those events until they start back up again in 2021. More information on that and some deep dive reading in our newsletter below. Next up, we have some really cool programs and opportunities that are all kind of centered around something called Stand with Small. So if you haven't seen it before, Amex has been a big supporter of small business for years with their Small Business Saturday program that they kind of run during the holidays, usually around the same time as kind of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Amex for many years has promoted small business shopping on a Saturday in the fall and winter. And so they've kind of stepped up that program now in the midst of all this economic damage caused by COVID-19, and they have a couple different programs. The top one that they've rolled out that I think is really cool is basically they've partnered with 40 other business service companies that includes everything from FedEx to Sam's Club to a variety of other businesses that most small businesses rely on to say, hey, we're going to waive our fees, we're going to reduce our fees, we're going to drop our costs. They're finding incremental ways to help small businesses survive and get through this thing. That's a really cool deal. There's a link to a deeper dive article with some information on how you can participate in our newsletter below. Another one that I found really, really cool is that Google has basically announced that they're going to make Google Shopping free for the short term. And if you don't know what Google Shopping is, just go onto Google and type in a product or a product category, something you're interested in researching or buying, and you're always going to see sort of that strip at the top of search that has images of products, usually with prices, and when you click it, it takes you directly to a store where you can buy it. That's Google's shopping service. That is normally part of their search engine marketing program. It's paid digital. They're waiving the fees on that, and they're allowing companies to go direct to consumer through Google Shopping for free. That's a really neat program. If you know how to take advantage of that, I'd jump on it quickly. It's a great way for brands to start driving e-com right away. If you don't, reach out, and we at Comedia are happy to help. We do a lot of Google Shopping anyway. It's a really effective tool for brands that are selling direct through e-commerce. And if you need some help, we're happy to help you with that. The last one that's in the same vein that I think is really, really interesting is eBay has launched a new program that they're calling Up and Running. And basically what they're saying is, look, if you're a manufacturer, if you're a brand that has not historically sold direct to consumer, even if you're a brick and mortar that doesn't have a way to sell direct to consumer, and you're a retail store, for example, they are offering a way to get that going very, very quickly. One of the challenges of pivoting direct to consumer or pivoting to direct e-commerce is you have to build out a website with an e-store and find ways to collect payments and set up with a credit card processing company and being able to sort of manage shipping and handling and all those sort of details. eBay takes care of a lot of that, and historically eBay has been sort of a mixed bag for retailers and also for manufacturers because you have to deal with certain complicated things like map pricing and some IP theft, things like that. But in this case, I think this is a really cool program because what they're basically doing is they're telling small businesses, if you need a way to start selling direct very, very quickly, we will give you a free storefront and allow you to basically have 3 months of free, they're waiving all their service fees. You don't have to pay a commission, you don't have to pay a setup fee, and you can get your products loaded and they will handle all of your shipping calculations, they will handle all of your payment processing. All of it is free for the first 3 months. So really, really neat program. We have a link to that with an article about it in our newsletter below. I recommend you check that out if you find that interesting. Finally, we have some great Media content for you. We did a really cool deep dive on a few different types of digital marketing. One was an article that looks at kind of the 3 types of media. So earned media, paid media, and owned media. If you don't know what the 3 differences are, I'd recommend you read this article. It's pretty critical in terms of doing business digitally today to understand kind of what earned media is versus owned versus paid, and particularly why customer reviews are so critical to driving e-commerce today. So we've got a great article about that. The link is below. We also have an article with some cool infographics on the most beloved brands by generation. And we look at sort of Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. I'm not going to spoil it. You should check out the infographics. They're beautiful. I will give you a hint and let you know that Jeff Bezos and his yacht are going to be fine. They are on every single one of those charts. So that's an interesting one to check out. And last but not least, on a feel-good note, we have some really cool small business success stories at the bottom of the newsletter. I recommend you check them out. And one that's close to home for us is the Quadratech hands-on homeschool program. It's really cool. It launched this week. Quadratech, if you haven't heard of them, is the largest retailer of Jeep parts in America. And they have a catalog, they have e-commerce, they're a client, really good people, family-owned business that's been around for 30 years. And they launched a program this week with our help that's really cool and exciting, where basically with all these families stuck at home, kids that are out of school until at least the fall, parents that are either home, working from home, or unfortunately in some cases on furlough, they're running out of stuff to do. And you can only have your kids stuck on an iPad for so long before they start to get bored. So what we're basically telling people through hands-on homeschool is, look, if you've got a Jeep in the garage or any kind of vehicle and project in the garage, grab your kid, take them outside, take them to the garage and teach them some life skills. Teach them how to change a tire, teach them how to change their own oil, teach them how to check their coolant, change headlights, or even do aftermarket mods and performance upgrades. And if you do that and you take a picture or shoot a little video and you post it and use the hashtag hands-on-homeschool and get it over to Quadratech, they will send you a couple of free matching t-shirts, one for the parent and one for the kid, with a pretty cool little family graphic and the hands-on homeschool tagline on it. So giving stuff away, there's no purchase necessary, and it's a pretty neat way to reward people for getting some quality time in the garage with their kids. So we recommend you check that out, and please explore all the content available on this week's newsletter. And again, like usual, if you have any questions, you can reach out to conmedia@kahnmedia.com. We hope to hear from you, and we hope you have a great week. Stay tuned next week. We have some really compelling content coming your way, including some pretty jaw-dropping infographics and data that we found on consumer behavior that you can use to start pivoting your business right away. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.